We're just 2 months away from November's midterm elections. President Biden hitting the campaign trail today. He'll travel to Maryland to deliver remarks at a Democrat National Committee event. This as the president continues to attack MAGA Republicans.
Extreme MAGA Republicans don't just threaten our personal rights and our economic security. They embrace political violence. There's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
Joining me now, former acting White House Chief of Staff, former OMB Director, Office of Management and Budget, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, do you think President Biden will continue to use this kind of rhetoric as we get closer to the midterms? Because, again, the strategy seems to be ignore the financial pain that Americans are in.
Yeah, good morning, Dagan. Thanks for having me. The answer to your question is yes, he's absolutely going to do this for a couple of reasons. You sort of hit on one of them, which is he can't talk about what he's actually accomplished, because what he's accomplished will turn people off towards the Democrat Party. If he goes out and talks about the economy, talks about what's happening overseas, they'll get pummeled at the polls. So it's classic politics 101. If you don't have anything nice to say about yourself, you say something bad about the other person. The other reason they'll continue to do it is that it works. It does. We're in the stage of the election right now where both parties are trying to get out the vote. It's called GOTV. Everybody does it. You're done now focusing on swing voters, and you're just trying to make sure that your base shows up. So it doesn't surprise anybody who follows politics that President Biden is out there using hard left language because he's trying to get the hard left base to show up. So for that variety of reasons, you should expect to see exactly this for the next 6 weeks.
California Governor Gavin Newsom asking residents in the state to conserve energy as its power grid is being stretched to the limit due to the heat wave, a natural heat wave. Listen to this, Mick. I'll get your reaction.
Cool your home and make sure that that thermostat's above 78 degrees. Still feels cool beyond words. I walked in at 78 degrees and felt like I needed a jacket.
Well, that is Governor Newsom's being slammed for wearing a fleece coat in a seemingly air-conditioned room while pushing the same message earlier this week. The Wall Street Journal editorial board out with a new opinion piece writing this: the grid problems that Californians are enduring will grow and spread as supersized green energy subsidies and mandates spread their harmful incentives throughout the United States economy in coming years. People who choose not to live in California, Mick, that's their concern. The Journal's editorial goes into these are man-made climate policies that have resulted in these electricity woes. Again, wind and solar versus baseload power of coal and nuclear. But again, is this insanity going to spread throughout the country, like everybody has to drive an electric car?
You'd like to think that it wouldn't, but of course we've been saying that, Republicans have been saying that for a long time, which is we'd love to have California around because it gives us the example of everything that can go wrong. Go back to what happened during COVID, and we had this mass outflow of people voting with their feet by leaving California. They had passed a piece of legislation earlier this week setting the prices of wages in fast food restaurants. You got to think that will end up closing businesses. They've got terrible policies on energy that's going to drive businesses and people out of their state. You would hope that people would look around and say, let's figure out what California is doing and let's not do that. That's not been the case recently, however. What happens is they start exporting these ideas exactly as you mentioned. You got to think Gavin Newsom has a problem. He really wants to be president, and he cannot stand to sort of have all of this bad news. So he's going to have to find some way to change the topic. He's really going to struggle to try and change policy. So you'd like to think that California is going to change. You'd like to think that the country's not going to follow them. But certainly the pressure will be there to go even further to the left as sort of this green wave takes the nation.
Well, despite his hairdo, if he's telling any woman, California or any woman living across the country, that they need to be okay with 78 degrees inside of their home, he should brace himself for a marauding band of females to not only charge Sacktown, but really just march across the country, because that makes women crazy. And I'm actually not joking.
No, you're not. In fact, I'm sitting here laughing because we have the same battles in my house. I like it a lot warmer than my wife does. And if the governor here came on and said it had to be 78, we'd leave the state. There's no question about that. So listen, the Democrats are neither party has sort of this monopoly on do as I say, not as I do. But
Right.
Gavin Newsom and the Democrats sort of take it to the highest level. He's got a real problem. The vest thing, while it sounds minor, is real. He vacationed in a state that he might not should have under California rules over the summer. He took criticism for that. He needs to do something if he's going to be taken seriously as a presidential candidate. And it's going to struggle, I think. He's going to struggle between now and the end of the year to try and change that narrative.
Before we go, staying on the issue of climate change, the Treasury Secretary herself, Janet Yellen, is expected to make a climate change make it the cornerstone of her economic speech at Ford Motors' Rogue Electric Vehicle Center today in Detroit, vowing to rid the U.S. of its current dependence on all fossil fuels. Mick, for me, the bigger picture is you look across the Atlantic, you look at Europe. They made year after year of policy mistakes pursuing a climate agenda that was untenable, and now they are experiencing energy shortages. You have the United Kingdom that is now putting in essentially price caps on how much a household will have to spend on electricity, but we're going to keep making those same mistakes despite what we can see right in front of us across the pond.
Yeah, we are if we don't learn our lessons.
Right.
When I saw Janet Yellen getting out to say that, go back to the days when she was the Federal Reserve Chair. We all accused her of being a politician, and now we're being proven right. She's a far left politician. You know, the UK story is very interesting in terms of price fixing. What will that do to either the supply of energy in the long term or inflation in the short term? You didn't mention the speech that Emmanuel Macron gave earlier this week in France, where he essentially said, look, we're going to have less of everything. We're going to have less energy. We're going to have less goods and services. But that's the price of not having the right-wing populists take over the nation. So that's sort of the narrative that you might see make its way to these shores. It's a Biden give a speech to say it's a choice between less of everything or MAGA Republicans. That's a really dangerous place to be. So, look, energy policies has been dangerous policy from the get-go. I know the left hates to say this, but the previous administration, Donald Trump, was absolutely right. We tried to raise the red flags about dependence on Russian oil and gas, and very few people listen to him. You're seeing it play out now. There's going to be a lot of challenges in energy policy going forward unless we figure out a way to get back to the all-of-above policies from the previous administration.
Right. Macron can say that, but you do have to be concerned about the rise of very dangerous political factions when the citizens and residents of these countries are suffering the way that they are. Again, history, the Weimar Republic and the paying your rent with butter and the runaway inflation of the Weimar Republic, we know what that led to. And bigger picture, you do have to be concerned about what happens in Europe in the short run and the long run. Final word, Mick.
The divisiveness of the nation is real, okay? It's not as bad as everybody says it is, but it is real, and it's happening during a relative time of economic plenty. The unemployment rate is very, you can imagine what it would be like if things are rougher than that. The politicians should be seeking a way to unite us. Even though Biden's speech may work politically, it's still hurting the country. He should be trying to unite the country right now, not divide it.
Mick Mulvaney, great to see you. Thank you so much.